let's check in on the housing market. As I've said before, housing really comes down to supply and demand, and there are things that can distort demand, like in 2020 and 2021, when the government shot cash into everyone's pocket and lowered interest rates. Obviously, that affects demand. But really, price action happens around the supply and demand curve. It's going to revert to the mean, which normally goes up with inflation, believe it or not. And there's a guy I follow on Twitter. I wanted to run through this Twitter thread with you. He does a really good job of pointing out the data. His name is Nick Gurley, so Gerli. But he's specifically pointing out that in these big cities, these exploding housing markets, guess what's exploding? Inventory, supply. Okay. Specifically, he points out these metro districts, year over year growth from 2022 to 2023. Look at this, up 300%. Nashville, Salt Lake, almost 300%. Austin, 260. Florida, 260. Colorado Springs, close to where I live, 160%. So, what does this tell me? Panic, potentially, in the housing market, meaning people hoping they saw what their neighbor got in 2021. Maybe their house has been on the market for a couple of months. They're not getting what they asked for. They keep lowering the price, lowering the price, lowering the price. People see this and they go, "Hey, I wanted to move. I thought I was going to be able to pull the equity out of my house when it was time for me to move. I better do that now, or I won't be able to do it." There's a lot of factors that go into it. He says Austin is a spectacle to behold. Inventory surged from 1,762 houses to 6,350 in 1 year, up 260%. What's more, the inventory in Austin is now 34% above the long-term average from January over the last 7 years. So this isn't, inventory went way down from 2019. So now we're back up to 2019 levels plus some. So we're kind of, and that has to do with raising interest rates. But so demand is low. That means prices as inventory comes online have to go where? Down. Okay. So if you're an investor or wanting to get into the real estate market like I am with investment properties as a dirty, rotten capitalist landlord, see my video from earlier today, then you might want to wait, because usually the best time is when nobody has cash, everyone has to sell at a loss, or everyone has to sell cheaper, and it reverts to the mean. If you follow housing prices with inflation, in 2012, the housing market bottomed out just below the inflation line. So houses typically go up with inflation. Sometimes they shoot way up, like they did the last 2 years, and then come below, and then they normally revert back to the mean. Okay. Nick says Salt Lake is another beauty. Inventory has nearly quadrupled year over year. Absolutely insane. But this is just the start of the inventory explosion, he says. Buyers' demand is down 20 to 30% from pre-pandemic levels in many cities, meaning as the spring selling season takes hold in 2023, the number of homes sitting on the market will skyrocket. The growth in inventory is most intense in the western half of America, plus states like Texas, Tennessee, Florida. Interestingly, inventory hasn't really grown much in the Northeast or Midwest. Huh. My explanation for the Midwest would be some people are moving there to get cheaper prices, but that's not the case for the Northeast, so I don't know why that is. Home building plays a big part in this. Almost universally, metros with the biggest inventory pileup are the ones with the most home building. The builders went a bit too crazy during the pandemic, and now we're seeing the results. Now the metros where inventory isn't growing, down in Hartford and Syracuse, flat in Sanford and Albany, barely up in New York, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Okay, so basically, that's why how he's explaining some of these places that haven't gone up in price, in inventory, because builders haven't been building in some of these major metro areas, unlike Austin and Colorado Springs and all the other ones I mentioned before. So if someone tells you inventory is low on the housing market, understand they're referring to the Northeast and Midwest. Inventory is not low in the Southwest. Data from this thread comes from Realtor.com. listings database. All right, so on top of that, I've done a video on this before where I think more inventory is going to come from is Airbnbs. Half of all Airbnbs listed started in 2022 and 2021. Or sorry, 2020 and 2021. Half of them. So in that market where houses were astronomically going up, they probably cannot cash flow an Airbnb as long-term rental. So that's the nature of a lot of Airbnbs. They're in vacation destinations, etc. So people bought Airbnbs at the top of the market. The only way they can cash flow if it's rented out 2/3 of the month. And guess what goes first during a recession? Travel. So I off the top of my head, I think it was 1 million Airbnbs were sold um, in 2020, 2021, and 2022. It's top of the market. So what are these people going to do? They're going to be screwed. Some of them probably obviously made good financial decisions, but a lot of them bought at the top of the market. The only way they cash flow is if it's rented out 2/3 of the month at very high prices with $500 cleaning fees, and it's just not going to be the case during a recession. So, tail end of 2023, beginning of 2024, I think we're going to see epic buying opportunities in real estate. That's why I'm saving cash, prepping for a down payment. I'd like to get some long-term rental properties. People made out like bandits in 09, 10, 11 when the housing market was reaching the bottom. And you can do the same if you do your research and act basically the opposite of the pandemonium. When everyone's telling you to buy, don't. And then they do the opposite. When it's get away from the housing market, it's going to lower in price, yada, yada, yada. That's when you buy. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.